Morning, Matt Pullen. How are you getting on?
Morning, Garry. I'm doing just fine.
You're looking very well in a very bright, well-lit room. So you've obviously done the video conferencing from home course.
Learning by practice, I think, is the answer. I don't think I've been on this thing for 4 weeks.
It's true. It's trying to adapt to this new norm or whatever that is. It goes through different phases. So where are you holding up? It's not clear from the picture. Where are you right now?
I'm not holding up in Istanbul, as the picture might indicate, unfortunately. So I'm in the UK. I'm in Kent, and what's quite fortunate is that I have a space that doubles as an office outside from the main house. So my wife and children don't get to listen to me droning on all day, every day, as has been the habit for the last 4 weeks.
Wow, and are the kids of an age that they could get under your feet, or are they looking for their den back? What's the dynamic?
Yeah, they're of a size where I get under their feet, not the way around. So my daughter's 20, she's at drama school, and my son's 17. He's in lower six, as I used to know it at school, but they're both here with us, doing remote learning, which is it's interesting to see how easily they've adapted to the whole situation.
Yeah, and I guess the industry that you have been part of and the industry that you've been in building, I guess, for the last 15 years, there's a sense of the time has come a little bit, like all those things you mentioned, remote learning, teleconferencing. There must be a small sense of pride somewhere that you've been part of facilitating the new norm of whatever that is right now.
I think you're right. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think what's helped is over the last year or two, even the medium we're on now has developed to deal with low bandwidth and to deal with a lot of issues that would have been real barriers to us even having this conversation now. So that's at the very basic end. And then if you think about what's going on outside of this little office every day with the delivery vans coming back and forth, you just see how what we do is powering the ability for people to actually exist during this really, really bizarre time.
Yeah.
Then not to mention how it's going to change people's behaviour and in some ways will become, I hope it doesn't become entirely the norm, but aspects of what we're going through will become the norm.
Yeah, through the process of talking to a number of people who are, they've anticipated digital change over a 3 to 5 year period, which has been achieved in their own offices within 6 weeks.
Yeah, we've seen exactly the same.
Necessity, it's like anything, necessity drives innovation, and people just become amazingly, we forget how adaptable we really are. We always say the kids are, but it's amazing how humans, all of us are when we have to.
That's right, and you're of the same generation as me, and for me to contemplate working permanently from home would have been very strange. Yet myself and everybody around me has just fallen into it so easily. And more to the point is reaching out and embracing aspects of it. We can chat about how that's manifested in my social life, which is probably not some way where we've gone before, but it's interesting. Catching up with schoolmates, college mates by using these it's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's extraordinary the way that we always, and they did say this even in previous challenges the world had, that we went back to first principles and basics when we were in defensive positions. I've retrenched into an Irish bar, as you can see, and I've put I've homaged to Matt Pullen. I've hung your picture on the wall. That's how I've decided to hunker down. Have you surprised yourself? I know you said we're of the same generation, but we're over 40, I'd say. We're not meant to read manuals and surprise ourselves. So have you surprised yourself?
Definitely. Definitely. With just the ease with which I've adapted to working like this. Also, I think what's been amazing has been the empathy within the family unit. My daughter and my son aren't known for being cordial 24 hours a day, but they're getting on famously. We're all getting on. There's not been a crossword in the house, despite some of the fears and loathings that no doubt all of us have, not just me, my wife, my kids, in terms of what does the future hold for them, etc. That's been the nice surprise.
Yeah,
really nice surprise.
And the biggest challenge.
I think the biggest challenge. Well, it depends whether we're talking social or professional. I think the biggest challenge professionally has been making sure that you put your fears and loathings aside, and that you are visibly leading. That you're not fazed by a lot of the sensationalist media in particular. You're not fazed when every day something unexpected happens, as is pretty consistent in this type of situation, and that you are always there and always available for people, irrespective of your own personal issues.
Again, it goes back to being there, being aware, and helping people at a humanity level, because there's a lot of people very scared, right? We had a chat before we came on air, but I don't have any parents, so I don't have that overhanging older grandparents or parents. I could only imagine that as being a big challenge for people, and that's even before they try and adapt to the new norm and do their work and stuff. So it's great to hear that you're connecting as at the human level. So your business, obviously, like everyone, you've got projects and different time zones and different locations that are working at different stages of lockdown. How's your business bearing up? And again, what has surprised you about the business or the staff in the business?
First off, I've got to be quite humble, Garry, because working in this sector, we're just unbelievably fortunate, and I can talk about courage and empathy and all those things, and confidence, but that is helped enormously by the fact that we're working in an industry that, dare I say it, is likely to be the beneficiary of this situation, as opposed to being overly burdened by it. And I think it's important that you keep reminding yourself just how hardly hit other industries are. When you think about hospitality, airlines, oil and gas, etc. So I just keep reminding everybody that they are in a very, very fortunate position, being in this industry sector, and thank goodness we all chose to move towards this sector when we did in our individual careers. The business is holding up extraordinarily well. If you segment it into operations and construction, our fully operational facilities are doing well because they're highly secure environments, and so for us to pivot to adding additional layers of security/screening to keep those environments safe was relatively easy. Also, we've got a pretty new portfolio, so as everybody has done, the scaling back of maintenance hasn't been such a burden to us, because we've got facilities that don't need quite the same level of maintenance as legacy older facilities. Construction side is clearly a challenge for the industry. We've got massive building programs in Germany, in the UK, in Ireland, and in the Netherlands. We're very fortunate because we started those massive construction programs early last year, at a time when I'd argue the industry was pausing slightly because of the slowdown in the US market. But we cracked on, and to be honest, best thing we ever did, because of course we're now nearing completion, certainly, of a lot of the shell facilities. And we'd all got momentum in our supply chain as well, and some critical mass, meaning that we do get prioritised in terms of the supply components. So it then is all about the human piece, because we're still relying on people showing up for work, and there's a lot of very frightened people out there who don't necessarily want to be out there in the world interacting with others. And we've been very fortunate, the courage of our people and our suppliers who've turned up to work, and who've all been very sensible in terms of adapting to social distancing on construction sites, making sure we can still get things to work, even if you can't have 40 people in the same environment that you normally have, and you need to do it in, as we talked about before, in shifts over more hours in the day than you would normally think about. But there's certain things that are just out of our hands. The ceasing construction in Ireland was one of those. But again, the industry groups have worked so well together, and hats off to you, Garry, to not lobby for commercial gain, but lobby through sense and sensibility to try and keep things moving. So
I saw recently that from the company yourself, and I suppose you learn about the culture of your own company. I see that the employees drove an initiative for helping those less fortunate in these times. In global, you have a new scheme to help people for food poverty, etc. I saw that recently.
We have, and it's really back to my point, Garry, about we all feel we're very fortunate working in this industry. So it really came about because we were looking at what we did internally to reward people who are putting themselves at risk. So it's fine for the headquarters staff in the sense that we can work remotely, but our operational folk need to turn up to work. And our construction people need to turn up to work. And it's also, we're asking a lot of them when they do that as well, because we're obviously segregating teams to make sure we've got resilience, so people aren't, even if they're turning up to work, aren't having the same interaction with their colleagues they normally have.
Yeah.
We're asking people as well to potentially, spend time on site away from their families far longer than they normally would. So we've been doing things that, of course, the outside world wouldn't see, which I'm sure a lot of other companies are doing. We're delivering pizzas to our operational folk. We're sending Amazon gift cards out. We're doing all sorts of things to make those people who are putting themselves at risk feel valued. And then we stopped and we thought, well, what are we doing for the rest of society? So we've effectively contributed $250,000 to food banks in Dallas and in New York, and we are going to contribute roughly 10% of that figure to food banks in London and Frankfurt as well, because we were astounded by the impact. The cost per meals are so affordable that giving significant amounts of money can deliver significant amounts of meals. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We certainly, what we're trying to do as well, within the bounds of being responsible, is seeing how we can augment the money with commitment from our people to help deliver. For example, my kids, without even asking them, went and became local volunteers and have been delivering. And I think we're encouraging our staff to look at doing the same thing alongside the money that we're contributing to food banks.
It's a really interesting point you bring up. Through this series of interviews with people, particularly those that have maybe slightly older kids in the 15 to 20, a lot of them have said the kids have surprised them so much. I know we like to slag them as millennials and snowflakes and stuff like that, but their preparedness just to step up and say, yeah, I'll do that. I'll help out. I'll do that. I'll put myself out, which we always said they wouldn't. I'll put myself out because I feel privileged to be safe in my family unit. So, that's a great thing for all of us. Is that humanity? Is that when we're in the darkest hours that we try and help each other? Maybe it is. Maybe it's...
I wonder, because of all the reasons that we've, and I'm just talking out loud now, all the reasons that we've been giving the millennials a hard time. Part of it's confidence, Garry, because they don't worry about what the future holds generally, notwithstanding what's going on. But they have this confidence that they're part of a generation that has choice, and that wants to balance their lives, and they have this incredible confidence that things will work out.
Yeah.
And that certain things that my generation would get quite stressed about, career, money, etc., they don't have the same issues. So I think it enables them in this situation. It's that confidence that drives their sort of lack of selfishness around putting themselves at risk, but also the view that, we're just fundamentally confident and adaptable. So if we're fortunate enough to have a car, let's use that for the benefit of others. Yeah. And I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's a common cause that all ages, all groups can sort of get behind. And if anything, I've a 17-year-old and an 11-year-old, and we're constantly adapting to find things that's age appropriate to stay in their lives. Well, this is a great thing because we all come together for the betterment of mankind, I guess. So there was one other thing I wanted to ask you. If there was just 3 words that you would say to listeners of this, or what would it be right now that you would have on a manifesto if you had such a thing?
I think we've touched on all 3 in every aspect of our conversation. So courage, empathy, confidence. I think, have the courage to see beyond this, to manage yourself through a very strange time, and manage yourself through times when you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get bored, you're going to think you're going out of your mind. But just have the courage, because in a lot of cases as well, people are looking to you to display that courage, and they will take courage from yours. Empathy is extremely important. I've touched on it. For people, particularly in our industry, who are busy, who aren't looking down the barrel of economic uncertainty necessarily in terms of what they do every day, and just have huge empathy for people out there who are scared about the future, whether it be their health or their economic situation. And then lastly, have confidence, because we'll get through this, and we'll get through this globally, we'll get through this as a nation, we'll get through this as a region. And that confidence should also drive the first 2, the courage and the empathy.
Well, Matt, it genuinely has been a pleasure. On so many levels, learning a bit more about yourself, a bit more about your family unit, the positives, the negatives. So we'll sign off. Next time I see you, or hopefully it'll be in a real Doheny and Nesbitt's, not just a facsimile. Stay safe, and thank you again.
Same to you, Garry, and thanks for all the support your organisation's given us. Really appreciate it.
No problem.